Hey everybody, and welcome to a new video. My name is Adrian Field and I'm an expat entrepreneur who's been living in Bali for the past 3 years. So I've gotten a lot of questions over the years about how I've been able to stay in Bali long term, and this video is going to be really informative on the subject. Today I have with me Sandy from K1, who's my visa agent and who helped me get my residency visa and set up my business here in Indonesia. So I'm going to be interviewing Sandy about the rules and regulations of what you need to be aware of if you also want to stay long-term in Indonesia. At the end of this video, I'm also going to be talking to Sandy's husband, Fadli, who's my accountant, about the financial obligations that you will face as a resident of Indonesia. So hi Sandy, welcome.
Hi, Adrian. Thank you for having me.
I'm really happy to talk to you today and happy for my viewers and people who are interested to get to understand about this very complicated process. Why don't you start by telling us a bit about yourself and K1 and what you do?
Hi everyone, my name is Sandy Desiree and I'm from K1. And then me and my husband, we actually run this. We have to separate companies actually. So I run the virtual office and also this consultant, not agency, so I need to make it clear. So the difference with agencies and also consultants is that the consultants, they need to keep up with all of the regulation and everything. You should know about the legal and everything. While agents, sometimes they just do it just because they know how to from the very beginning.
Right.
So
that's like if you have a simple visa, like a social visa, and the agent just goes to the immigration office and gets it extended for you. But a consultant is actually, you have more information.
Yes, exactly. Because sometimes when you hear some information, you need to cross-check that. And the thing is, in Indonesia, all of the information is not always provided on the internet like what you used to have probably back in your home country.
And even if it is provided, it's not clear, right?
If
you don't speak Indonesian, it's quite difficult to understand as a foreigner.
And it's our job to cross-check on that regulation, because sometimes people say like, oh, it's easy, you just get a business visa or whatever visa and then you can stay and whatever. But sometimes they don't know after that what comes after that. And then that's when things get complicated sometimes and become an issue for them. So
that's what we're going to try to clarify in this video today. Okay, so Sandy, my first question for you is, are foreigners allowed to legally work in Indonesia, and what is that process like if you want to work in Indonesia?
So, of course, you can legally work in Indonesia. All you need is the proper or the correct permit, which is a work permit, which is issued by the Ministry of Labor of Indonesia. It's a long process. It's not that actually complicated, just to make sure that when you apply for working, so it's not when you, sometimes people say like, oh, just get a kitas, you know, because most of people say like, just get a kitas. No, actually with the kitas, it's the stay permit, not the working permit. So actually it's the working permit that you need to legally work. And there's a lot of other requirements that you need to fulfill, depends on the field of work itself.
Right, I mean there's a difference between someone who would want to come here and work, for example, as a yoga teacher versus someone who might be a digital nomad and earning their money from overseas.
Yes.
So that's, I think, a question that a lot of people have these days who are digital nomads, who are earning their income from whatever country outside of Indonesia. Maybe they're doing consultancy work or whatever, but they're getting paid outside of Indonesia. So can you talk about what is the situation for digital nomads to be legal in Indonesia? Give us just some clarity on what type of visa they should have.
If I can just read it, the digital nomad must be aware of the existing immigration regulation in Indonesia to avoid troubles with the local authorities. Indonesian regulation clearly state that foreigners who are working for Indonesia and receive wages in Indonesia must apply for a work permit.
Okay, so that's foreigners who are working for an Indonesian business, right, and earning funds in rupiah. But if you are, let's say, from Australia and you're earning Australian dollars while just living here, would that be okay to have a different type of visa, to have a social visa, or to have even a tourist visa?
No, unfortunately,
So legally,
no.
that's
Yes.
is not. So most of Canggu is breaking the law.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm sorry to say that, yeah, it's breaking the law because the immigration description of digital nomad, like wherever you work, if you work in Indonesia, even though you're earning money outside of Indonesia because you're working in the Indonesian area, so it means like you're obligated actually to have the working permit.
So is there a special type of permit then? What's the type of permit that those nomads who aren't maybe even living in Indonesia all year round, maybe they're here 6 months of the year, what kind of visa should they have?
Actually, I also need to make something clear, like the digital nomad, however, often work freelance, right? And then
Freelance, right.
yes, work for a company abroad, and they're therefore unable to apply for a work permit in Indonesia. But currently in Indonesia, the regulation do not clearly regulate this type of remote working. As the result, digital nomads are finding themselves in a gray area.
Okay, so long story short, there's no easy answer to this question.
Yes, this gray area makes it very risky for the digital nomad to work in Indonesia under visa on arrival, because people think that, well, I'm working for another country, I'm just
Right.
using my laptop. That's why sometimes they feel like I don't put myself into like harm or dangerous situation, but unfortunately not from the immigration perspective. Also, if you're on the social visa and that type of visa that cannot use for work, and immigration office can impose administrative sanction, or the worst case deported them for working without proper permit. Based on the above, we advise digital nomad to obtain a proper work permit while working in Indonesia.
So for them, what is that type of work permit? Is that a kitas or is that something
For
different?
example, there's a lot of like yoga teacher,
Right.
or sometimes like before the pandemic, there's like a DJ or something like that.
Right.
They need the impresariat visa. It's like an art or performing
Okay.
visa. That's kind of work permit.
What
because
about-
it's like one-time show.
Right.
Yeah, something like that.
What about someone who's maybe living in Indonesia like 3-4 months and they keep moving around the world? So Indonesia is not their main home base. But so they're doing their work from outside again, like they have clients all over the world. Is there a specific type of work permit that they would need?
If you are under the business visa, you can actually just do meeting, and then also like conference, something like that. That's actually for the business visa. So there's no hands-on visa actually.
Okay, so there's no such thing as a digital nomad visa
Yes,
as of
because
right
it's
now.
a new classification, and probably they're still working on that. And as you know, in Indonesia, probably it's going to be years after until they came up with the
Right.
new regulation.
So meanwhile, just to summarize, digital nomads are in kind of a gray zone area. So if you're coming here for 3 to 6 months out of the year, there's not a specific type of visa that you could have right now that would put you in 100% regulation with the government rules, which is a weird situation to be in, but that's something that I think in Indonesia you generally have to get comfortable with, is that there are no kind of absolute answers a lot of the time, and these things are very often changing, like Sandy said, on a day-to-day basis, so that is what it is right now. You just have to be aware that that is actually the rule and the regulation. So my next question, Sandy, is how can you stay long-term in Indonesia? The people who want to stay here for over a year, 2 years, make Indonesia their home base, what is the process for that?
You have the ITAS, or what we call KITAS here. So this is actually the stay permit. So it's really different with the visa. visa is where, like, the working visa or the social visa. Remember, the social and VOA, it's a no-no for work. So what you need is ITAS or KITAS. So I'm going to explain this a little bit. So the limited stay permit, or what we call ITAS or KITAS, is the best option for foreigners who decided to stay long-term in Indonesia. The limited stay permit has a validity period up to 2 years.
Up to 2 years.
Yes. Depending on the type of the stay permit, it allows you to get more extension after that.
Right.
So some of them, they're just like 1 year or 2 years, so it depends on how long you want to stay.
So it's not that simple though, as people think, oh, I'm just going to get a KITAS and stay in Indonesia, right? Like,
Yes.
it's actually, there's a lot of requirements to be eligible for KITAS. Would you walk us through what are some of those requirements?
Yes, there are several, but I would like to explain there are like 4 types of limited stay permit over here.
Okay.
So probably they can know the options. There are 4 types of limited stay permit over here. The working stay permits allow foreigners to work and stay in Indonesia. So these stay permits allows you to work and stay. So again, sometimes people get confused. That's why you need to really know what you're going to do first,
Right.
before you get all of these permits or the stay permits.
Right.
The foreigner obtains both a work permit from the Ministry of Manpower and a stay permit. It calls the ITAS and KITAS from immigration. The second one is the investor stay permit. Applies to foreigner who own shares at least 1 billion rupiah in Indonesian Foreign Investment Limited Liability Company, or what we call PMA.
Okay, at least 1 billion Indonesian
Yes,
rupiah, which is about...
Yeah, you do the conversion.
I'm really bad at this, but it's a lot of money. It's quite a lot of money.
Yes, it's 1 billion, probably is around 140 something.
No, that's about 100,000 Australian dollars,
Yes,
which means that it's
we talk in
around...
Australian dollars.
Okay, that's a much easier conversion
Yes.
than US dollars. So in US dollars, it's about $70,000.
Yes.
So you need a capital investment of $70,000.
So at least your share should be at least that you need to invest in the company. Why it's so big? Because sometimes people say that, oh, well, in the United States, you don't probably just put $1. And then, like here, because the government, not us as the consultant, the government thought that in order for you to get this luxury, the 2-year stay, at least you need to invest to Indonesia to run the business.
Right. So that is one of the biggest requirements to be able to have KITAS, is this capital investment of 1 billion
Yes.
Indonesian rupiah.
Yes.
So
and
it's clearly not available for everybody. If you don't have a certain amount of cash to put into setting up, also you mentioned a PMA, which, let me specify, is like a private limited business here. So you need to set up a business, basically, correct?
Yes.
In order to then get KITAS.
Yes.
So what is the process also of setting up the business in Indonesia?
To set up the business, well, you at least need to have, for a PMA, you need at least to have 2 shareholders.
Okay, so you can't do it alone. You need at least one partner.
Yes. And not all of nature of business or business field are available for PMA. Some of it, you can have the list. Actually, the list is on the internet as well. They have it also in the English version.
Okay.
You can look it up. It's like 1,000 of the 1,000 items or 1,000 of business fields that you can choose. And some of the business field or nature of business, it's not available for 100% expatriate ownership, yes.
Okay, so in which case you would need an Indonesian partner
yes,
for certain
sometimes
things.
you need like Indonesian partners as well. So that's the thing that people should know before they also establish a company And then it's also not easy when you have partner, because sometimes if you just go to an agent, you say like, I would like to establish a company. They say like, okay, easy. What do you want? You just want the skitas and blah blah blah, and then they just form this company for you, and later on you have a problem with your partner,
Right.
you have a problem with the permit and everything. So instead of spending less money, you ended up spending more money.
I think
you
that's a
don't
really
sit-
important
yeah.
point, Sandy, actually, that I want to underline here, which is that there are many people in Bali specifically, but maybe Indonesia at large, who are very happy to take your money and say, oh, we're going to do this for you, we'll
For
set
you.
up your business, you know, and they
I
actually
can
don't
do it
tell you.
cheaper than
Right.
the consultant.
Right, and they don't actually tell you everything that you need to know. So I've heard so many stories too of not just people who are trying to get kitas, but even trying to just renew their visa, and they think, oh, I'm going to get it cheaply done. So they find somebody on Facebook, and then that person ends up holding them ransom, literally, like won't give their passport back.
Yeah.
And then they end up with some big fine at immigration. So it's really important. I mean, before I met Sandy, I talked to a couple different agents, and then when I met Sandy in person, I felt, okay, this is someone that I feel comfortable with. And obviously Sandy now, I've known her for almost 2 years, and has walked me through all of the uncertainties that come with owning a business here in Indonesia and renewing residency visa. But again, it's very important that you don't look for just the cheapest person, but that you look for someone and that you ideally face-to-face meet that you feel confident in, because there's so much complexity. And again, it's not as simple as I'm just going to get a kitas because I want to live in Indonesia. No, the rules and regulations are very many. You want to have someone that's going to be your advocate, that will answer the phone when you call with questions. And again, that's why I'm happy to know Sandy, honestly, and that it's been, for me, a really positive experience working with her and her team. So I know there are still actually some other requirements besides the capital investment that you didn't, and the partnership that you didn't touch upon yet, about having a business. For example, you have to have a business address as well, correct?
Exactly.
So tell me some of the other things in that included that you need to have as requirements and ongoing expenses to maintain your business here.
So sometimes people also, when they go to an agency, they said like, okay, you want a PMA just to get a investor kitas, boom, that's it, you're done. But they don't know after that, next year, and then there's an invoice from the virtual office like the one that I run also, and you didn't know, because in order to establish a PMA or a company, you need to have a legal address where the address should be an office. Up until today, you need like the legal address where you can run a business. So you cannot use your villa address or your friend's address. Like, oh, I have my Balinese friends, and can I use your address and then to establish? So it's not like that. You need to know where your company is located at. So that's also very important, because that's the first step once you want to establish the company.
Right.
But
it's not a simple process.
It's not.
Which is why, again, you need a consultant. It's not something that you can do by yourself. So if you're serious about wanting to stay long-term in Indonesia and do so legally, you do need to have someone who is going to handle all of this very extensive paperwork for you and keep you up to date, because there's also things that are required, which I'll talk to Fadli about accounting, remitting monthly taxes, all of this kind of stuff. So it's not just like, oh, I'm going to get a kitas and then I can just stay in Indonesia forever and not have to worry about anything. No.
Sorry, the third one is the family stay permit requires an Indonesian spouse as sponsor of the foreigner, or usually called spouse visa. So if you're having a local partner, so you can also have this kind of stay permit. The fourth one, the retirement stay permit, is available to foreigners who have reached 55 years of age. So if you're 55 and above, you can apply for this. Just remember that the retirement visa, it's not a retirement stay permit, It's not a working permit.
So you really have to be retired.
Yes, you
meaning-
need to retire and earn your money from your home country and just relax in Bali.
Okay,
You know?
which a lot of people would love to do.
Yes.
So can you tell me what just are the typical costs of obtaining for an investor KITAS? What kind of amount of money would somebody who obviously they need to do with a partner be having to put up for the consultancy costs and all the regulation costs and the government filing costs? Just a general ballpark figure.
For the establishing the company.
For everything and for getting your KITAS.
Yeah, it starts from for establishing the PMA. It starts from 35 million because because it's different type of business, different type of regulation. That's all. That's what we need to know first, because sometimes people really afraid that oh my God, they're going to charge like really high or not. Sometimes they want to know first. This is also why me and my husband, we provide free consultation first, because we don't want to burden people. They want to invest, but they need a good information first, the correct information first, because before they're spending money.
And there's also
they're scared of the scammers.
There's a really big variation in what consultants will charge you, because the first person that I talked to wanted to charge a lot more than that. So again, you need to meet people, do your homework, or reach out to Sandy and Kesatu, who I really can fully endorse. And I feel so that's kind of the base price is 35 million, and then you have additional expenses about running the office, you have expenses related to accounting, you have expenses related to renewing the KITAS each year, etc. So you're probably talking around like maybe 50 million, right?
Yes,
it's like to get your KITAS, and that means that you're in Indonesia for 2 years. We're not talking about how much you're going to owe in taxes each month. That depends on your revenue. But 50 million to have this type of visa.
Yeah, it's around that, because we also cannot predict, because sometimes the government, as you know, they're planning on, I don't know right now, I haven't checked that again because now they're on holidays, because they said that they would like to raise the VOA triple from the from the current price. So we don't know how about the permit and stuff. That's why it's really hard also in Indonesia just to determine the price sometimes. Sometimes they just start from this month of money or budget, and then we'll see from there, because sometimes when everything changes from the government, it's really hard for us to determine the price from the very beginning.
Right, we're recording this video on April 30th, so we're giving you the information as of today, but as we know and as we've said in Indonesia, things can change very quickly, and next month maybe the price will be different. But in terms of consultancy fees and things like that, you're looking at least about 50 million rupiah to pay for what would become a PMA and to be eligible for this type of investor KITAS. As Sandy pointed out, it's not your only option. If you're over 55 and you're not working, you can get a retirement visa. I'm sure that's a lot less expensive and a lot more simple. So that's something to take into note as well. And what if people want to stay in Indonesia forever? I mean, other than marrying an Indonesian, what's the kind of roadmap for that?
Well, you just need to extend your stay permit, because after KITAS, after several times you extend it, you're going to have the 5 years stay permit. And then just after that, you just need to continue, because I heard they're putting on the agenda on having a new regulation again. So I need to keep up with that and then let you know again.
So hypothetically, you can just keep renewing this KITAS, or what becomes KITAP, which is for permanent residents. And that would be the solution, other than if you get married here, about how to stay here basically forever.
Yeah,
brings me to a very specific question as well, which is how can foreigners, there's so many like famous influencers and people who are building houses in Bali, and I'm sure a lot of people that would be their dream. I want to own a house in Bali. Can a foreigner own a house in Bali, and if so, how?
It's different kind of ownership. It's not like the expat as a person own the property itself. So there's like a very long journey, as you know, that on how for how you can own a property over here. Technically, you cannot own a property over here under your name.
But you can under a business,
Under
correct?
your business, but under your business, you can actually own the property.
So would you imagine that a lot of these influencers, these famous people who are, building their houses here, they're doing it with a PMA, that they have an investor kitas and then they are owning their house with their business here in Indonesia?
Yeah, I heard that a lot. Yeah.
Because
But-
otherwise it wouldn't be possible, right? Or
Yes.
they're taking what about a leasehold if you take a 25-year leasehold?
Yes, like sometimes like what they typically do actually it's something like they use nominee and they don't know that actually right now nominee scheme is now illegal.
A
Because
nominee, which means what?
a nominee usually that they use, this is very typical, like, oh, I know this Bapak or this person, this Balinese or this local, they're very nice, they're very honest, I know them, they're not going to double cross me or whatever, so I'm going to use their name, I'm going to buy it as if this person is buying them.
So put it in that local person's name, but that is illegal. That's important to point out.
Illegal, yeah.
Okay. But if they wanted to take a 25-year leasehold, they can do that in their name or no? They need to
Well,
do it
with the
through the
leasehold,
business?
yes, for the business. Everything should be for the business.
Okay.
You cannot do it under your personal name.
Okay. That's a lot of important information I think that we've discussed, Sandy. It's a lot
Yes.
for people to digest.
Mhm.
Thank you so much for all of these clarifications. And now I would love to talk to your husband, Fadli,
Sure, yeah.
about different accounting things, because it's important to note again that if you are going to have the advantage, let's say, or the quote-unquote luxury of an investor kitas, you have obligations here in Indonesia, meaning you have to pay taxes here.
Yes.
So Fadli, who's the expert on that subject, is going to talk to us about that. All right, welcome back. So I'm now here with Fadli, who not only is Sandy's husband, but who's also my accountant and tax advisor. Welcome, Fadli.
Hi Adrian, how are you? Nice to meet you.
Yes, good to have you here. So why don't we just start, if a foreigner has a PMA,
Yes.
what are their general tax requirements? What are the things that they need to be aware of how much, what is the tax rate, what do they need to know?
So basically, once a foreigner have a PMA in Indonesia, they have not only tax obligation but also the investment obligation. So there are monthly tax obligation regarding Article 21. It's for the salary, and also Article 23. It's for services, and also for the final tax for income. And then also every quarter they need to report the investment report to the LKPM.
So what are taxes like in Indonesia for the business? I mean, what kind of rate would one expect to be paying if you have a PMA?
So for the first 3 years when the PMA established, the tax rate will be 0.5% if the revenue is less than 4.8 billion.
Okay, so 0.5% if the revenue is less than
4.8 billion a year.
which is a lot of money. That's about
The maximum is 24 million,
the maximum
around 24 million per year. So 0.5
million or
per
billion.
million.
What does that
In
mean?
tax.
The maximum tax.
Tax.
The maximum you could possibly owe is 25 million rupiah, which is actually not a lot of money.
Yeah.
That's less than $2,000
A year.
US.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's for the first 3 years. You get this benefit of having
Yeah.
a low rate. However, it's important to note that is on gross revenue. That's not
Correct.
on profit,
Yeah.
right? So that's any money that is coming through the business, you are taxed at 0.5%.
Correct.
Now, how is profit taxed or how is salary taxed?
So after the 3 years period ends, and then if the revenue is still less than 4.8 billion, then the tax rate will be 11% from the net profit. So it's not
11%
from
from
the
net profit, okay.
not from the revenue anymore, but it's from the net profit. So for the individual tax rate, the tax we got the progressive tax rate. So now the first 60 million will be 5%, and then over 60 million to 250 million will be 15%. Over 250 million to 500 million will be 25%.
Okay.
Over 500 million to 5 billion will be 30%, and over 5 billion, 35%. That's the
Okay,
maximum
well,
tax
if
rate.
you're earning more than 5 billion a year, you're doing pretty well in life.
Yeah.
That's quite a lot of money. So, and how do, I mean, obviously I work with you, and so you file my quarterly reports and you file my annual reports. So would you say obviously the best thing to do if you have a PMA is to find someone who's a certified accountant or tax advisor like yourself, and to work with them, someone obviously that they can trust, who's going to file all of this paperwork?
Yes, I suggest to find a registered tax consultant, because sometimes many people saying that their self is a consultant, but they don't have any like certification or registration from the tax office. So if you do that, then it might make,
You might have a problem.
yeah, you might have problem in the future, since they are not registered. So when there's something happen with your bookkeeping or your report, then they cannot assist you, or they cannot represent you in front of the tax office.
Would you say that it's rather complicated dealing with taxes in Indonesia as a foreigner, or if you have the right person, it's simple?
If you have the right person, then it's simple.
And how much do you think somebody would need to budget per month to have a tax advisor?
Usually starting from 2 million a month.
Mm-hmm.
And it will depends on how big is the company and how complicated the transactions are.
Another point is that banking in Indonesia can be rather complicated,
Yeah.
right? Can you tell us a bit about what are the options for foreigners here with banking, and when you have a PMA, that you have a business bank account that's separate from your personal bank account? Just walk me through a little bit about how that process goes.
Usually, if you want to open a bank account in Indonesia for your business, we are using a BCA. That's the biggest bank. But if you want to have like a multiple currencies in your bank account, then we prefer to use the OCBC and ISP.
I don't recommend them, by the way. I'm sorry, but I don't think they're a good bank. But okay.
Yep. Since they have the multiple currencies in one single account, so it's better. So when you receive money in USD, it will stay in the original currencies. They're not like automatically convert into
Right.
the rupiah, because
But
otherwise.
most likely, I mean, if you're doing business in Indonesia, you want your money in rupiah, because you have to pay staff, you have
Correct.
to pay expenses, all of that is going to be in rupiah. So I don't really see the point of having a multi-currency account unless you're doing a multinational business here in Indonesia.
Yeah.
In that case, maybe it makes sense. I can say personally, in my situation, I have a BCA account, and I think that they're the best, especially if you have also a personal BCA account, because it's very easy to move money that way, and the integrations that BCA has with all of the kinds of things that you would be doing in your daily life in Indonesia, whether that is, your topping up your electric bill or paying for Gojek or whatever. It's very easy with BCA, right?
Correct.
So, Fadli, do you have anything else that people should just be aware of as foreigners? What about, again, I asked Sandy this question, but digital nomads who are earning money from overseas, do they have to pay tax in Indonesia?
Yes, by law, everyone that stay in Indonesia for more than 183 days in a year.
Okay, that's important. For more than 183 days in a year.
They are subject to become Indonesian tax resident.
Okay.
So when they are become Indonesian tax resident, then according to the Indonesian income tax regulation, every Indonesian tax resident must report all the worldwide income into Indonesia. It means not only the income you got from Indonesia, but also from all over the world.
But how would they do that if they don't have a work permit? If they're staying here, let's say on consecutive social visas, which is, as Sandy pointed out, might not be legal, how would they self-report their tax? Would they need to talk to someone like you, and could that be figured out, or what would be the best practice in that case?
So this is sometimes a lot of people getting like confused or misunderstand about the regulation because we need to separate between taxation, immigration rule, and also permit, because these three institutions they're not connect with each other. So regarding to the taxation, when you get income, it doesn't matter if it's legal or illegal.
You still have to report if
Yeah,
you're here
you
for
still
over
have to
180
report,
days. Okay.
even though you don't have any permit from the immigration or anything else. When you get income from Indonesia or you stay in Indonesia, you need to pay tax. From the immigration perspective, even though you pay taxes in Indonesia, when you don't have a work permit,
They can
you're still
still kick you
illegal.
out.
Yeah,
Right,
they
okay.
still.
So I guess that's an important point. But if you're here for a short amount of time, if you're here for 3 months, if you're here for 6 months, under the 183 days, you are not considered a tax resident of Indonesia.
Correct.
But if you're thinking about staying here long term, if you want to make Indonesia your home base, you need to be tax compliant in order to also be compliant with immigration. So all of this is really important to know, and again, it's very overwhelming. This is a long video because there's just so much information to take in, and that's why it is vital. If you're really considering that you want to make Bali your home for a long time, you do need to have a consultant like Sandy and Fadli, people who are on your team and people who make sure that you're doing everything legally, because you do not want to end up one day waking up with immigration knocking at your door
Or even
and getting,
tax officer.
yeah, or and getting deported. I think that could probably be the biggest nightmare, especially once you feel like, okay, I've settled on a life here, I have a house and these things. You want to feel comfortable that you're doing everything legally. So talk to somebody like Fadli, talk to somebody like Sandy. Really important that you do things legally, and again, it's very complicated in Indonesia, so don't think you can just do it off the books or by yourself. That's all for this video. Thank you guys for watching. I really hope that this was informative and helpful to you. Thank you, Fadli,
Thank
for
you, Adrian,
coming
for having
over.
me.
Yeah, and for giving all of this information to people. And until the next video, guys, take care, and I'll see you later.